Perfect.
So let it run right there.
Wherever you want to do.
Another owl. Wow. And I'm so glad to see these work about moving infield back to the wall. And pitch counts to be huge. They're talking about dropping the game. They worked the game by over 40 minutes.
Hey, how's everybody doing?
All right.
Good. Welcome. We do this every Wednesday, if y'all didn't already know. It usually starts around 12, it ends about 1. The only way to find out about what we're doing and when we're doing it is to sign up for the email. So if you hadn't signed up for the email, I highly encourage you to do that. Just go to the website, rectech.com, put your email in when a little pop-up hits you, or just scroll down to the bottom, and that's when you can figure out what we're doing and when we're doing it. Anybody new? Hey, well, thank y'all for coming. How'd y'all find out about us?
We've been trying to come.
You've been trying to come?
It's just we've been busy.
Email?
Facebook.
Perfect. Thank y'all so much. Well, if you didn't know, we've got some new hot sauces. We got 4 different flavors. I've got them all set up over here on the table. The pork butt is already ready already. So if you want to help yourselves do some tacos and try each hot sauce, I believe they may be doing a couple of specials inside as well, just for folks that come. So definitely hang out until the end. We'll be doing pork butt today. It'll be hot and fast, not your usual low and slow. We'll get the same exact product, but I'm gonna spend less time doing it. You're gonna spend less time doing it. You can do other things like yard work or spraying off your deck from all the pollen, right? If y'all didn't know, this is Daniel. Daniel's pretty much head of the social media content team, and this is Tyler. They'll be running around. If you're thirsty, there's waters back there in the back. I'm gonna help myself at 12 o'clock on a work day to a delicious White Claw hard seltzer, okay? Kind of loosen me up a little bit. You know, it is kind of hard to come out here and talk to you guys without having a little bit of a slight hint of anxiety. A lot of seasoned veterans here around, especially right here. He could smoke y'all cooking anything right here. He's been to you've been to every one, right? You got this one?
For the last several months, anyway.
Sweet.
There you go.
Well, we appreciate it. Any questions before we really get into it and get started? We're gonna go through everything. So, if hey, Mr. Jimmy, how are you doing? If you guys have any questions, stop me. We got plenty of time, unless you got to go to work or whatever. Then hit me with them all at once, okay? If you didn't know, my name is Jody. I've been here for about 9 years. I do featured person on a lot of the social media and stuff like that. I'm also the public relations manager. I know pretty much everything there is about the grills, and I've cooked pretty much everything there is. So don't hesitate to ask me questions, okay? There are no stupid questions, just dumb answers that I'm going to give you, okay? If you have social media accounts, I would highly encourage you to follow me on social media. I do a lot of fun things around Augusta, so if you're local, you can follow me and find out about the cool events around town, cool things that are going on. My wife also works for the radio stations in town, so we go and do a lot of cool stuff in town. So you'll
Which radio station?
she works for the Beasley Group, so that's Kicks 99, WGAC, Bob, HD. There's a Christian station as well, so she works for that group right there. So we're always about the town. So cool, let's get into it. So I woke up at 5. I live about 10 minutes up the road. I woke up at 5 o'clock this morning and cooked these pork butts that are already ready, okay? They were done at 11 o'clock before you got here. So that's all of 5, all of 6, all of 7, all of 8, all of 9, all of 10. That was 6 hours to get 2 pork butts done, easy peasy. All I did, drove up here, turned the grill on 325 degrees, seasoned the pork butt, put it on. I got to be here at 9. I came back at 9. I wrapped them at 9:30. They were done at 11, okay? We'll go through the whole process, but I just wanted to give you a kind of a 30,000 feet view, okay? When you're going to choose your pork butts, and if y'all want to get closer, if y'all don't, I don't mind yelling. When you're going to choose your pork butts, I highly encourage you to do it when they're on sale. Right now they're kind of expensive. These I got from Sam's, and they're about $2 a pound. Now you can find them. normally. Back in the day, you could find them for 79, 89, a lot of times 99 cents a pound.
Right.
Anytime that you can find them under $1.50, I would encourage you to buy a few of them and put them in your freezer. Okay, so it's definitely a good buy. When you're going to choose these things, pork butt in specific. Anybody here for the brisket that we did?
Yeah, brisket, yeah.
Pretty much the same thing when you guys are looking for the brisket. You know, you're really looking for the intermuscular fat, the striations of fat. Okay. I always kind of concentrate on one area. This little area right here is what we're going to call what people the money. Okay? You can see it's totally different looking from any other piece on this pork butt. Okay, it's going to be opposite the bone end. Okay, so my bone is on this end of the pork butt. Okay, it comes up, it sticks up right here, and it's sticking over here. So it's on this end of the pork butt. That money muscle is always going to be opposite of that shoulder bone. Okay, thing that looks like that. So I look for this, and then I look for the striations or intermuscular fat that are in there. Okay. Not this stuff on the outside. That's not what I'm picking this on, okay? It's that intermuscular fat inside that money muscle, okay? You could also use your top end to kind of figure it out. A lot of times they're not going to be as cleaned up as these pork butts are. So these are really, really nicely cleaned up. No fat on top, all fat on the bottom. Another thing I'm looking for when I'm choosing a pork butt, and this is just me specifically, I'm looking for a complete fat cap. I want it to cover that whole piece of meat. There's, a couple of reasons for that. One reason is you see this piece of meat right here?
Yeah.
This piece of meat is actually sitting in between two pieces of fat. And right here, this butcher's kind of messed this up and it exposed it. Well, for me, when I'm pulling the pork butt, you're not going to get a lot. It's just something fun to do for me. That's actually called bacon. It's not really bacon, but all of the barbecue guys, they call it bacon. This is like the magic that we throw in the box. That gets us the win, that gets us all that good stuff. But I always like a full fat cap because there's going to be a full piece of bacon in there. And I like to get that and save that, put it off to the side for me. It's not a very big piece of meat, but I just like to do it. Another benefit to having a full fat cap is that it's going to protect that meat. Okay? If you're cooking on like an offset smoker or like a big green egg Komodo or anything like that, that fat cap is going to protect your meat from the heat. Okay? Traditionally, you always want to cook with your fat pointed towards your heat source to protect the meat. Traditional. Okay? Now, with with the pellet grills, you're cooking with convection current. So really and truly, it doesn't necessarily matter because there's two pieces of metal between the meat and the heat. If you cook it fat side up, that fat's not just going to magically melt and end up in your meat. Okay, it's going to magically melt around and fall into your grill and end up, causing you a big giant mess. Okay, so that's another reason why I like that full fat cap. Okay, any questions up to this point?
What temperature, how long do you leave that meat out? Do you get it down to room temperature before you
I don't necessarily get it down to like room temperature, but I do let it sit out, not the chill off of it.
That's what I'm asking, yeah.
Maybe 10-15 minutes, not a long time.
All right.
He asked, do you let it sit out before you put it in? Yeah, I let it sit out about 10 to 15 minutes. These that I'm going to pull in front of you at the end of the demo, ones that I cooked this morning, I actually seasoned those last night.
All right.
I put them on a pan, covered it with clear wrap, and put it in the refrigerator. That way, when I got here at 5, all I had to do was take it out, turn the grill on, and put it on, okay? Yes, sir.
Fat cap up, but do you cook the fat cap up or down?
Yeah, I always cook it fat cap down. Protects the meat from the heat source. Good question. Yes, sir.
Do you ever have any issues when you season that far ahead of getting a little bit candy taste?
No, sir. I mean, if 48 hours, you letting it, you know, that's like a dry brine. Yes, sir. Yeah, you're gonna pull some hammy flavors out of it for sure. It's definitely gonna smell like ham and less like, you know, pork shoulder. Very good question.
Do you pour it on or rub it in? You pick your season.
So his question was, do you pour it on or do you rub it in? Never, ever, 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 ever rub it in. Okay? The rub should just sit on top. When you're rubbing it in, you're creating a coarse, a coarse dance floor. Okay? And you don't want to do that. You really just want to pour it on. And what I do is I turn my hand over because I know the bottom side of my hand is dry, and I'll actually just dab it in. You'll see that in a little bit too. Very good question.
Thank you.
So why is it called a rub? Yeah, very good question. Very good question. I will have the answer to that next time I'm here. But no, back in the day when we used to preserve our meat, you know, they were in the wooden barrels or butts. So when we would preserve pork shoulders, we would put them in those giant butts. That's why they call it a pork butt. They would rub it with salt. They would try to get, of course, all that salt on there to draw out all of that moisture. So I believe that the word rub comes from them rubbing the salt before they put it in the butt. Very good question. Excuse me. I'm getting a little dry mouthed up here a little bit. I apologize. Hey, YouTube.
Once you put it down, you never move it or turn it over, and you just leave it like it is always fat there.
Yes, sir. Yep. His question was, after you put it in the grill, you know, do you move it? Do you rotate it? Do you do anything else to it after you put it fat cap down? I just leave it in there. For those of you who have been here before with me, you guys know I'm a lazy cook, and I'm going to do the least amount of work possible. Okay? Because I've got two little hellions, a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old running around, so of course I've got to keep my eye on them because they're turning grills on, they're, you know, knocking the, you know, stuff over, yada yada. But let's get to it. Now, like I was telling y'all earlier, I don't do a lot to these. I'm super quick with it.
What does that keep pulling out?
This is a disposable cutting board. So we sell these in this size as well as a large size. These are 12 by 18. The other ones are, I believe, 12 by 24, this size. So it definitely makes quick work if you're not nasty. Keep your real cutting board clean. Now these, anytime I'm cooking pork butts, I try to get the same size or close to it. You know, that way they all finish about the same time, right? I don't have, you know, a couple of 12s, a 10s, some 8-pound pork butts. I don't have all that mixed in. You know, that way they just all finish around that same time. Because again, when you're doing these, normally everybody likes to eat about the same time. So, right? Any questions before we get into this? So, our anatomy. There's about 13 muscles in here. Okay. Again, this is, we call it the pork butt, and it is part of the pork shoulder. Okay. I know a lot of people are going to be embarrassed to ask that, but again, the reason why we call them pork butt is back in the day when we preserved the meat, we would put them in these barrels called butts, and they would do it. And again, that's where Boston butt comes from as well. Okay. But there's about 13 muscles in here. When we do competition barbecue, we're only worried about 2 muscles. We're only worried about that money muscle that I was telling you about right here that's opposite end of the bone. And then we're worried about that bacon, this intermuscular, this piece of fat, this piece of meat that runs in here, in between these 2 pieces of fat right here. Okay, competition barbecue, that's all we're worried about, okay? So I would trim this down so much I'd be disgusted with it. But when I get them, and I'm just going to cook for the house, the very first thing I do is I do the finger check. So I like try to get into all the nooks and crannies and all of that good stuff, because they like to tuck. You know, it likes to tuck everything when it's in the cryovac. It gets sucked in there, you know what I'm saying? So the butcher didn't do us any favors by having all these nooks and crannies that we're going to have to deal with. So anything that like sticks up or creates an edge. You know, I'm going to try to take off because more than likely, what's going to happen? It's going to get burned. Yep. Right.
Can you save it?
You can't. Just to kind of expose this muscle a little more. And you can kind of see this is all of that intermuscular fat that we're kind of judging.
Yeah.
We're kind of using to judge this pork butt. You don't want to judge anybody or anything, but we want to judge this. So that's what we're going to use. This is going to be our guide on whether or not we want this. You want to stay away from it because it doesn't have intermuscular fat. Okay, fat equals flavor. Always, always, always. Okay. All right. So we'll get those little things off. Now the fat cap, you can do a couple of different things. Okay. Some folks will go ahead and just take it all off. That way, when they're pulling this after the fact, they're not having to worry about it. Okay. Again, me, I leave it on because I want to get that piece of meat, throw it off to the side, and eat it myself. But I also am very meticulous when I'm pulling it after the fact. But I know I'm going to get all of this off, and it's not going to get mixed in with my meat. Okay, that's very important. A lot of folks, they'll get their pork butts, they'll unwrap them, and they'll get those claws or even drills with the corkscrews on them and get in there and mix everything up. All that fat, even bristly parts. You know, there's a couple of lymph nodes in here that can even get included, and then will actually give off like sour flavors. So there's a couple of different benefits to pulling with your hands visually after the fact and taking more time at that step as opposed to any other step. Because again, at my house, if I wasn't talking to anybody, this would already be on the grill, and I would be tending to other things. Okay, but that's a super quick, easy trim. Some folks will leave this fat cap on and score this, okay, inch by inch, and create like a diamond pattern. I'll then see them rub their seasonings in all the crevices. Now this is not bad. It's actually pretty cool if you're feeling frisky. I like to do it when I'm wanting to eat the fat, okay? Because if you cook at a higher temperature, like we're going to cook at today, this is going to render down and create, these little inch by inch cubes are going to shrink down and create, nice little enjoyable nuggets, especially if you season this side. Now, when I'm at the house, I'm not going to season that fat cap because that seasoning is not going to magically go through the fat and then make its way to the meat and season our meat. It's just going to sit on top. Okay, so that's just like a wasted step. Cool. Any questions? Any questions? Yeah. If you wanted to, you can actually debone this and cut this into pork steaks and cook them at a higher temperature, and they're going to be really, really, really good. But you're going to save if you were going to go to the store and get pork steaks, and they're not like pork chops out of the loin. I would definitely encourage you to get a pork butt and cut up the steaks yourself, because you're going to save yourself money, and all you're doing is literally cutting steaks out of this piece of meat. And that's what the butcher is going to do for you. He's then going to put it on a piece of plastic, put it through the machine, and slap a price tag on it, and it's going to go up in price. Right? So you could also do that yourself. I'm going to go ahead and do this one all right, we're at about 30 minutes, so that's good. And again, I'm just taking my time right now. At the house, these would already be on and already cooking. Now, let's go back to here we go. Here's one of those lymph nodes right there. Now, you can open these up sometimes, and they may have a little smell to them. Okay, that's okay. If you get your paper towel, dry it off, you let it sit for a couple of minutes, and you come back to it. And if you hover around it and it doesn't have that smell anymore, you're good to go, you're fine, okay? But there can be like a smell from the protein that they inject into these things sometimes, okay? Sometimes Smithfield does it. They will actually inject these to almost make sure that you as a consumer don't dry them out when you cook them. So kind of watch out for those. I don't really like to get them injected already. When we do competition, we do inject these, but just because in competition, in food sports, you only get one bite. So that's why we inject it. I'm not going to waste the money on injection for us at the house. Yes, sir?
I was debating you bringing that up on injection, but when you do inject, you just do something neutral like a chicken broth, or do you actually flavor it from the inside?
No. When we inject, we're going to inject heavy phosphates into it.
Right.
A lot of salt, a lot of chicken flavor. A lot of porky type flavor. And it's going to be very, very salty. And it will start breaking it down after 24 hours if you don't cook it. But yeah, just to like give it an overpowering flavor, yes. If you're going to do, like beef base, or chicken base, or anything, it's really not going to do anything flavor-wise. It is going to help it be a little bit more moist. But at that point, I would rather just like brine it, like a turkey, rather than inject it with anything, because that's easier. Very good question. But yeah, I'm not a huge fan with injecting. Again, I want to taste the pork, and this is like a fatty piece of meat anyway. This is not only a piece of meat, so you're getting some awesome flavors. And again, when you got a large piece of meat with a lot of muscles in it, all of those muscles are going to taste different. They're all going to have their own kind of flavor because of the amount of blood being pumped through them. So the beauty of barbecue is when all those mix together. But this one was about the same way. Again, I wouldn't have chosen it for competition barbecue or at the house. But if somebody had said, "Hey, can you come and cook this thing for me?" Heck yeah, it would be easy. These I got at Sam's. If you go to Costco, they sell boneless pork butts. They do not sell bone-in pork butts. I like cooking bone-in because that bone acts like a heat sink, and you can pull it off. Let's say 195, and it's going to continue to cook, and it's definitely going to reach that internal temperature. You've definitely got a lot of wiggle room in taking it off and letting it rest. Any questions up to this point? Again, we've got our food and drinks in the back for any of the newcomers. And then again, we've got the new hot sauces, so please feel free to give them a try. They're all awesome. Watch out for the Reaper. It is very, very hot. Very, very, very hot. All right. It's super hot. All right. So now these are pretty tacky, so I don't necessarily need like a binder. Now a binder is essentially seasoning glue. Okay, I don't need this, but for you guys, I'm going to show you. I am a mustard person. I don't put mustard on hot dogs. I don't put mustard on hamburgers. I'll put it in my baked beans. And then I put it in my pork butt. So I don't necessarily eat or like mustard all that much. But it's going to cook off. You're not going to be able to taste it. You can use mayonnaise. You can use oil. Any kind of fat. Don't overthink this part of it. Okay? I'm a huge fan of the Rasa Ruski's Honey Rib Rub for ribs as well as pork butt. It has the most amount of sugar in it out of all the other rubs. So that's my go-to when I'm cooking for my family and the crew at the house. No, sir. Because our rubs are so coarse, it's kind of tough to use them for competition because of all of the like greenery and large stuff in them. It's kind of offsetting. So no, we will grind up our own rubs and then use them sometimes. But no, we've got our own competition line. Now, this is a big old piece of meat, right? And this seasoning is not going to magically penetrate to the center of it. It's not going to ever. It will never in a million years penetrate to the center of it. So you technically can't over season this. Technically, you know, you don't want to eat when you're pulling it, you don't want to crack off giant pieces of seasoning, right? You know, so this is about what I usually do, and it's about a half a jar. I usually get a jar for 2 pork butts. That's usually what I do. We have the mesh cooking mats inside. I usually season everything on the mesh cooking mat. Use the mesh cooking mat to transport my pork butt on and off of the grill. Makes it much, much easier. Today I did not do that. I'm disappointed in myself. Yes, sir.
Do you use the heavy sugar rub because you like the taste or because you like the flavors?
Very good question. He asked if I use the heavy sugar rub for the taste or the color. Both. I like the taste that it's going to give me, the caramelization on the outside. But that sugar as well as the paprika in the rub is going to give us a really good color. Okay, very good question. So we'll let, anytime we season anything, and this is clean. I'll pass this around. You guys can taste it if you want, or just check it out.
Why did you use that instead of these really big rubs that you talked about?
Just pretend I did that. Because I forgot that was on there, and that's what they told me to do. I'm in trouble now. Thanks. Hey, Screaming Pig Rub is really good too, y'all. I just forgot to bring it out here.
Use both.
Yes, normally the play is mixing the Screaming Pig and the Rossaruskis together. Is normally the play here for any kind of barbecue, whether it be any kind of pork barbecue, whether it be the pork butts or the ribs. Okay. Now, after we season, you always want to let it rest. You always want to let it sweat. That seasoning is going to be on the outside of the meat. It's going to start drawing some moisture out of it. That moisture is then going to mix with the seasoning and kind of create a flavor mark on the outside. Okay, and that's technically your first step of creating that mark or that color. Okay, eat with your eyes first. So you always want it to have a pretty color, right? I can't tell you how many times I've been to somebody's house and they cook on a gas grill or a charcoal grill, and they kind of smoke that steak out, and it kind of looks gray as opposed to brown. Every time that steak is going to taste bad because it looks ugly first. Right? So you eat with your eyes first. So always, if you're going to make pretty food, more than likely it's going to taste good, right? So that's always been my motto. So we've got the 1070 preheating on here, 325 degrees. What did the recipe say?
325.
325. For the bullseye, it's going to be a little bit different, everybody. Okay? Because the bullseye is a more direct fire pellet grill. It's more like a gas or a charcoal grill, less like a smoker. Okay? There's only one piece of metal between the meat, where the meat sits and the heat source. Okay? So you're going to get more direct fire, more direct heat, more direct smoke. That's a good thing. But I like to set it up for a more indirect cooking environment. Okay? So what I do is the half version of this pan, a half aluminum disposable pan. I will take it and I will place it on the right hand side of the grill on top of the deflector shield up underneath the grill, the grate itself. Okay?
Underneath.
Right up underneath. Okay? What that's doing is it's pushing all of that heat and smoke away around it, right? And then I will cook my pork butt directly on top of that, where none of that direct heat or direct fire is going to touch it, right? And that sets it up, it sets this grill up essentially to cook just like this grill, with two pieces of metal between the meat and the heat, okay? Now I'll put some liquid in that half aluminum pan, not because I need it to go into the cooking chamber to moisturize my meat, but because when my fat renders down and drips down into that pan, I don't want that 325 degree pan to burn that fat, that burningness then goes straight up and touches my food. So I put liquid down there so when the grease drips down, it doesn't burn and shoot nasty smoke up into my food. Okay? The same thing can happen on your drip tray of your grills. So make sure you keep your drip tray clean. Make sure you change your foil or clean your Teflon liner often, because that stuff burning, you know, there's not much room between your drip tray and your grate. You know, when that grease burns down here, it's going to touch that food as well. Okay. Think about that. When I put it on this grill, I'm going to watch out for my air gaps. The air gaps are going to be a gap at the front and back of the grill where your heat is coming from. Okay? That's where all of the heat is coming from. Not over your drip tray. That's where your convection current is messing around. Okay? So you don't want to put your pork butt all the way near the front or all the way near the back. You want to put it in the center. I always like to put it on the right hand side, because when the grease drips down, it doesn't have very far to go to get the heck out of the machine. So that's what I like to do. Same thing when I'm cooking anything hot. I always like to cook it on the right hand side. That way when the grease drips down, it doesn't have far to go to get out, therefore getting out and not causing a grease fire, right? Any questions? Yes, sir.
The bullet doesn't have one.
No, sir, it does not. It does not. So when you put that extra pan in there catching that grease, it saves you a headache, you know, after the fact.
Well, what I do is I put the rib rack with meat on that and put it in a pan for
Same thing. Same thing. Yep. I just put mine on the deflector. Yep. Very good question. Cool. So this will go in, and I'm going to cook it until it looks pretty.
Can you do that for me?
Right. It looked pretty after 4 hours today. When I got here at 9, boy, it sure was pretty. If I got here at 8, it would have looked pretty at 8. If I got here at 10, it would have looked pretty at 10, right? But no, it had a deep red mahogany color to it. It looked pretty. It was gorgeous. It's on my phone right here. Hey, YouTube. Make sure you follow me on social media. I'll post a picture of what they looked like earlier today. That's definitely going to be a post of mine. But they were gorgeous. Okay. After they looked pretty, I wrapped them in aluminum foil. I always like to do 2 layers, because I like to save all of that juice, all of that deliciousness.
Which is better, the brown paper or the aluminum foil to wrap?
So they both have their benefits. If I'm taking pictures for social media, I'm going to use that brown paper because it looks cool. If I'm at the house and I've got to clean up, I'm using aluminum foil because it's going to keep all of those juices, all of the grease in one spot, right? Well, yeah, if they're like, hey, Jody, go take some pictures, I'm going to be using this paper for sure. Now, the paper does a really good job of allowing you to save your bark, as opposed to like when you wrap a brisket. It tends to steam it, and you can lose some of your bark if you go to touch the outside after you open it up. It's kind of squishy. So the paper helps with that outside crust on the outside, maintaining it. All right, so come off, and they rested for about an hour. Okay, they've been resting about an hour and 45 minutes right now. Okay, I would suggest take it to at least an hour. Okay, anytime beforehand, you know, if you didn't cook it all the way, you're going to be able to tell. After about an hour, more than likely, if you screwed something up, it's going to fix itself. Okay. Like briskets, I prefer like 2 hours, 1 hour, but make sure you at least do it for like an hour, okay? I have an oil separator. Like I said, I like to keep all of that juice. After, I pull all of these and out of the aluminum foil, I'll dump everything into my oil separator, okay? I'll dump out the oil and I'll save all of that extra delicious juice. When I pull this, I'm gonna mix in that juice back into the product, okay? Got a lot of seasoning that'll be in that juice, a lot of delicious porkness. I call it porkness, a lot of delicious porkness in that juice. So that's another way to kind of rehydrate if you've dried your pork out. I always like to mix it in for flavor, you know, again, because there's a lot of seasoning, a lot of saltiness to it. Some folks, when they go to wrap it, they will wrap their pork butt in various things. If I do anything, it'll be like a half a stick of butter. Because I know I'm saving this, and I want it to have like a more creamy, delicious, buttery texture. Okay? Now that's not cheap butter. I'm not going to use the Kroger or Publix brand. I'm going to use like that Amish brand that comes in the roll. That big one. The good tasting one. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Cool investment for you guys would be to get some hot gloves like these. You get on Amazon. I'm sure Rectech will start selling them sometime. But you can get these on Amazon. They're big cotton gloves. Essentially, they're insulation for you. So if you don't have an hour to wait, you can throw these puppies on. It's still going to be hot, but you'll be able to at least. This is how we're going to be dressed.
No matter which side of the aluminum foil faces it.
Very good question. He asked, does it matter what side of the aluminum foil touches the meat? Reynolds Wrap official statement is there is no different side to that aluminum foil. The shiny side does not reflect more heat or energy. The dull side does not reflect less heat or energy. So don't believe that. That's just a myth. I don't know. However it's facing. Yeah, I've never really been.
The shiny side would reflect more heat towards the meat. Theoretically.
If you follow the urban legend. Yes,
Yeah.
All right, so here's our pork butt. Okay. Cooked to perfection. Right. First test. That's done is the bone pull, of course. Right. There are left and right pork shoulders. You know, so this bone may be opposite of the other bone that you have. 9 times out of 10, you will never in a million years get the same hog in the same package. If you get it 2 packs. It's the weirdest thing. It's the weirdest thing. So I don't, like I told y'all, I don't get to going and doing all of that mess just yet, okay? We've got a little bit of work to do right now, okay? Now you can if you want to, but I'm just not the biggest fan of getting a big old bite of fat in my pork sandwich, okay? And it sounds like some people aren't either. Okay, so this just came off. This is what's called the horn meat. You know why? That looks like a horn, right? This is the dark meat of the pork butt. It's always near that bone. Okay. The money muscle is down here. Like I said, so that is the chef's portion. Right? This is the most tender part of the pork butt. Had the most amount of marbling in it. So this is what the preparer of the pork butt gets. So anytime you're doing it, you just set that off to the side.
Nobody else will know, right?
Yep. Cut it in half and make 2 sandwiches out of it. And I promise you, just leave it like this. Cut it in half, 2 sandwiches. It'll be the best thing you've ever had in your life. I promise, right? As we get in, as you fold, as you like open it up, of course, you know, the muscles are going to start separating for you. Okay? You're going to come across some areas that are going to have some connective tissue. And that's really what I like to get in there and get rid of, okay? I don't like to mix all of this mess up, okay? I'll get in there and separate each muscle. And then essentially peel a lot of this stuff off. If you ever get really good barbecue, I'm talking like, damn, that was good barbecue. This is more than likely what they've done. You don't have any of that mess that's mixed in there or anything like that. Somebody has taken the time to take it off first, and then after it cooks, take it off again. Okay? But this is what separates the barbecue for sure. Here's an old competition mussel that they would use. It's a tube. It's protected by the roast. So our roast right here. Here's our other tube. Some more of that horn meat. You guys can see how dark it is. Okay. It's going to be a lot more tender, of course, because it's dark meat. Dark meat's going to have more blood and oxygen running to it. But yeah, there's another. Doesn't that look like a little horn? Right. All right, that bacon that I was talking about in between. Kind of disintegrated because again it's cooked in between two pieces of fat. Here's a little piece of it. Just a little piece. Again, it's in that fat. You can't overcook it. So if you like overcook it and it's really dark, it's going to be real chewy, so you just discard it. You're not even really worried about it. Kind of trying to separate these for y'all into mussels. So you can kind of see when everything looks cleaned up. Everything I'm cleaning up is going to be like an independent mussel, and they're not going to have any other connective tissue in that mussel. So it's literally all meat and no goop getting mixed in. Because again, all of this is goop. All this is. Don't hold that. Okay?
Feed it to your dog.
Feed it to your dog. Very good. Mine would probably mess up the floor. I fed it to him. And I'm mixing the money mussel for y'all.
Alright.
A whole lot of juice in this. There's a lot left in this bucket. Oh yeah, there's the juice. Okay. Same thing for this one. Bone came right out. Went in the whistle. This one didn't have much of a fat cap. It had a very, very small fat cap. Another little tube. But again, just take the time. At this process, again, me, when I'm at the house, I season it, I barely trim it, and then I throw it. But I do take the time after the fact to come in here, get all that connective tissue, make sure that there's no fat in there. Now, if you like fat, throw some fat in there. That's fine. It's going to moisturize it, but don't throw the whole fat cap in there because nobody really enjoys that. So, any questions? Okay, let me show you this. There goes one of those lymph nodes. You kind of see it's got a lot of discoloration to it, black, very unappealing. So you don't want to mix that in there. Any questions? Questions?
So when you take it off and wrap it for 2 hours, how does it stay so hot?
Well, that bone, like I said earlier, is a heat sink, so it does radiate that heat and keeps it warm. Being in the foil keeps it warm as well. A lot of times when people take it off and it's in the foil, they'll put it in like a cooler or the microwave or the oven. Not on or anything, but just insulated area just to kind of keep it warm. Now it can sit for 5 hours. It'll be fine. Now, if you screwed up like me and you've cooked a pork butt, and you've had a couple too many mango white claws, wherever that thing, and you forget to pull it night of, that's okay. It's all right. We can come back from that. 350 degrees for about an hour will reheat a pork butt whole to where you can go in and you can pull it. Okay, if you're lazy like me and you didn't feel like pulling it night of, 350 degrees, wrapped in, it's already wrapped in foil, right? Wrapped in foil, 350 degrees, we'll warm it up to where it's pullable, and you can then reheat it again. Okay?
Don't wrap it until after you finish cooking.
So, okay, I am in, for this, no sir, I wrapped it when it was pretty, and then we continued to cook it. I'm a huge fan of going 250 degrees until it's done. Again, I'm lazy. I don't like to wrap. I don't like to do anything kind of extra unless I'm cooking for someone. So yeah, I go 250 degrees, and it usually takes me between 8 to 10 hours to finish these. I will then, when I pull them off, wrap them. Because
Is that when you put the butter on?
yes, sir. I'll then wrap them because then, after you take them off, they're going to lose a lot of moisture. And I want to keep all that moisture. If I hadn't been all crazy with it, I would have probably been able to save a lot more juice. But I wasn't as careful with it this time. All right, so, like I said, when we seasoned it, that seasoning did not magically penetrate the inside of the meat, right? We only seasoned the outside. That's with everything. Briskets, pork loin, all of that, all of those larger muscles, you're not magically seasoning the inside of the meat, okay? This will clean up problems.
What pellets did you use?
It's the Ultimate Blend. Yep. If you're looking for more smoke, I would choose the Ski. If you're looking for like a sweeter aroma to it, I would choose like the apple or cherry. Okay. I like the Ultimate Blend. It's just super, super consistent. So it's very, very hot. It's still very hot to the touch. This process, I'll just separate all those muscles, just kind of like this. Not with those claws, not with a drill or anything crazy. Just separating with your hands. Again, this is the step. Because I don't know about y'all, but I don't want this to look like hash. You know what hash is? It's just really, really ground up pork. You know what I'm saying? I don't want this to look like hash. I want it to look artisan. I want it to look like I took forever to make this. You know? And I don't want to hit it with a power tool. Okay?
Jody, isn't that more of a regional preference though on how they follow the process?
It is, but visually, everywhere, this is gonna be more eye appealing to have on a sandwich, as opposed to something that's super fine ground up or super chopped up. Like chili, like poured on. Now we're not done. After we mix it, we pull it. We've got a couple things to do to it. Okay. Again, I will add that pork liquid back to it, or you could use any of our barbecue sauces. Gourmet works really, really well. It's vinegar based, so you don't really need a lot, and it will hydrate your pork and give it a good flavor. The pork that you're eating at the back that you may have already eaten, that was sauced with the Harry's Secret Sweet Sauce. Okay?
Which sauce?
The Harry's Secret Sweet Sauce. Okay? And then this we could do with anything you want, but that was done with the Harry's Secret Sweet Sauce. Pour out fat. Pour in some of that liquid. You don't want to pour all of it in there because, again, when it gets down to the end, that's the fat. So you want that out. You're seasoning again. And then you're mixing again. Now, if you ever make bad pork, you don't like your pork, it tastes, it's not very appealing. Sauce it and season it again, okay? If it's dry as hell, sauce it and season it again, okay? If you go to a party that the pork is bad, when that person turns their back, sauce it and season it again, okay? I promise you, it will make all the difference. It's the craziest thing. Okay,
This
that
is pulled pork.
This is pulled pork right here. This is what you should be making at the house. This is none of that junk. This is like, you know, you come in here and you're like, holy crap, you get tongs and you're actually grabbing muscles, you know. But this is the point in time, because you as the chef or you as the person making it, you have to taste it before you dish it out to other people. Okay? You seriously have to. If not seasoned well enough. Again, it's a big dumb piece of meat, y'all. I ain't met a pork butt that's been seasoned yet. You gotta season all of them, okay?
The season is that,
The Rossaruski's honey rib rub. That's usually mine. Oh, this is the Harry's Secret Sweet Sauce. It's our thickest molasses base. It's also got that darkest color. Again, it goes back to that looking pretty. Okay? And you don't want to handle it a lot, because again, you're then tossing it all up. It's another opportunity to take out connective tissue that you've missed. Okay? Boom. We're done. I know it's good. I tasted it. Then I seasoned it. You know? Don't be afraid of the seasoning, folks. Don't be afraid of that salt. Don't be afraid of MSG. Okay? They're all naturally occurring. The good Lord put them here for a reason. But this is our hot and fast pulled pork. 6 hours. Easy peasy. Don't overthink it. If you wanted to, you didn't have to trim anything. Just season it, throw it on the grill, let the grill do all the work. Okay? Trying to think of any other tips.
Is that in the app? Is that in the app?
Sir?
If I put it
It will be, yes, sir. There's a couple of different versions of this one, but this one it should be already in the app. And then everything on the app is now the same thing that's on the website. So all the recipes are now on both. If you don't have an instant read thermometer and you're cooking, I highly encourage you to get one. The thermometer built into the controllers does a really good job of monitoring large pieces of meat. I don't like the temperature probe for monitoring small pieces of meat, like hamburgers or steaks or pork chops, because that probe is just so big. You know, it's not going to properly monitor that temperature of that small piece of meat. So that's why I've got this instant read thermometer. I can also go in there into my pork butts, my briskets and stuff with this bad boy too if I need to. But this is just a great tool just to know when the food is cooked. Because again, if you're cooking 4 people, you got to be safe. Again, you want to take your everything's safe to eat at 165 degrees, right? But like your pork chops, you don't want to cook them over 145 or they're just going to be dry. Okay? It's safe to eat pork, at 145, even 135. I go to really good restaurants in Atlanta that won't go over 135 in their pork chops. Okay, your steaks, you don't have to cook them to 165, y'all. That's well done. You can take them off at 125, 130. Let them rest about 5 minutes and they're good. I promise. Same thing with hamburgers.
Or steak tartare.
Well, that'll be a lot lower in temperature for sure.
So when you've got it on the grill and it's wrapped, you
Stick it right through it.
the foil?
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. And then when I come back, if I checked it first in this direction, I'm going to go in that same hole, but I'm going to go in a different direction. Right. Any other questions?
What's your average pound of fish meat? What, how, if you get a 10-pound butt, you average what, half of that cooked?
Oh, no. If you got a 10-pound butt, you're probably getting 70 to 80%. Yeah. There wasn't much fat to them, and I didn't throw much stuff away. But yeah, you are going to get the dehydration. That piece of meat is going to shrink, and it's going to weigh less, of course. But yeah, probably around that 70-ish area of usable meat. Now, if you're cooking like a whole hog, you're only getting about 40%. Because there's bones in there, and all of that other good stuff. So think about that. Entertaining folks, and you want to cook a whole hog, cook a little bitty whole hog, but then cook a bunch of pork butts. Say, man, doesn't that whole hog taste good? Right? Because they don't know any better. They just see it and they're like, man, my buddy just cooked that whole pig, and I'm eating it. They're not going to think otherwise. They may come over and ask a couple questions. Any other questions? Yes, sir. Keep it coming.
On the butt, the issue that I'm having is I'm having variations in temperature. I may have 5 or 6 degrees difference from one side of the butt to the other. More than 10 degrees. It's very different. Is there anything that I might be doing wrong? Is I doing long and slow?
Low and slow? I would just say don't overthink it, and only take it from one part of the butt, as far away from the bone as possible, and as centered as possible. So when we were explaining, that pork butt, you've got the bone side, and then you've got that other side that had that money muscle on it. I would try and take my temperature from the center of this part of it. Okay? Because again, that bone, remember we said earlier, it's a heat sink. Once it heats up, it's going to start radiating heat itself too, okay? Very good question. Yes, sir.
I missed the first one. I got here a little late. Do you let the meat sit out for a while and come to temperature? Or?
Yeah, very good question. If we let it sit out and let it get to room temperature. Large pieces of meat, no. I don't like for them to get to room temperature, because if you think about it this way, it's going to spend less time in the smoker if you let it get to room temperature. If you want it to absorb the most amount of smoke, you want to put it on there colder, right? Because it's going to be in there longer. So if you're somebody that wants a lot of smoke on their product, I would put your meat in there as cold as possible. That way it's in there long enough to absorb the most amount of smoke. Very good question. But yeah, I let the pork butts sit maybe 10 to 15 minutes to let that cold kind of shake off of them, and then they're going in the grill. Yes, sir.
Chasing the block. Some different people want more bark, some people want less bark. My family loves bark. What do you recommend to maximize the amount of bark?
I would buy bone-in pork butts, and I would debone them, and then I would cook them butterflied over. So that's going to create the most amount of surface area, so where you can put the most amount of seasoning on the outside, therefore creating the most amount of bark. Or if you want to cut it in half, cook 2 little ones. That's creating 2 separate surface areas. That's essentially doubling the amount of bark, right? Right? If you think about it that way. Yes, sir.
You said 6 hours, but it's got to be per pound, right? I mean, so much.
Never. Get that out of your mind.
Up to how many pounds?
Get that out of your mind. Because this pig is going to be completely different from the pig you get at the grocery store the next day. It may be fed something totally different. It may have been born at a cold part of night, and it's a skinny, long hog as opposed to a short, fat hog. So you've got to get that out of your mind. Now
You got a plan. But when you want to
6
eat.
hours. 6 hours. It's ready in 6 hours.
That too
Right, and
big.
that was an 8 to 10 pound pork butt. No, we did it at 325 degrees.
Okay, I usually do like 250, so it would take longer.
Yeah, absolutely. It's gonna take between 8 and 10 hours.
You just probe the tension, correct? Is that
Yes, sir. Yep. You never cook it really to temperature either. you're really only wanting to cook the tenderness, everybody. So that temperature is a guide, just like time is like a guide to you. It's never done until it's done. Right? So that's another reason why I have this, is because when I go, after the rec tech tells me, okay, it's 200 degrees, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna check it with this. If this does not slide through that piece of meat like butter, then I'm gonna continue to cook it. And I'm gonna come back in 15-minute intervals, and I'm gonna check it. And I'm gonna check a different hole each time. My man with the glasses on, that you're worried about it like being inconsistent. Get you an instant breath thermometer, or even just like a long toothpick. And when your thermometer says, hey, we're done, you check it in 3 different places. If those 3 different places are probe tender, it's what we call probe tender, when it slides through like butter, it's definitely done. Again, time and temperature are only guides. You should never cook to that every time, because I'm different from you, right? Like, I'm 205 pounds, pretty fat, not very athletic. My man right here looks a clean 200 pounds, very athletic. You know what I'm saying? So animals are exactly like that. There are animals that push other animals out of the way at the food trough, and they get more food. So these animals are all going to be different. But just remember, the grill is going to keep everything consistent, and it's going to remove the most amount of variables. When I'm cooking on like my big green egg or my giant offset smoker, I'm the variable, because I'm the person that has to control the fire. I'm the person that I'm the thing that has to fuel the fire. I'm the thing that has to say, holy crap, I've had the lid open too long, I need to close the lid. I'm all of that. The grill, with the controller, and all of the technology, it removes all of those variables to essentially to where you can create a perfect product each and every time, because you really can't screw it up. But man, I talked a lot longer than I thought I would today. Any other questions? Hey, so locally, I'll be doing, myself and Chef John will be doing classes at Second City Distillery. So look out for that stuff as well. Those will be paid classes, but those will go through a little bit different scenario, and they'll actually be hands-on to where you can trim them, season in it, throw it on the grill, and we'd all eat at the end of the day. So if you're interested in that, please hit me up, or Chef John will have some info on that for you. It's not necessarily through RecTech, it's just through us. But if you're looking at learning more, we do more of these classes, more intimate, just about 20 to 25 people in Augusta. So, cool. I'm going to put some more of this pulled pork over here if you guys are hungry. Please eat this stuff because it's free. Please taste the hot sauces because they're new, and that's what they want me to push for y'all. But feel free to come up and ask any questions if you guys have, but that's all I've got for today, okay?
Thank you very much.
So one quick question, when you put your rub on, how long do you let it rest? Just
About 15 to 20 minutes until it starts to sweat. You'll start seeing that moisture kind of being drawn out of it.
Yeah.
And if it starts to pool, it's sweated and it's good to go.
It's a different road than that.
No, sir.
Just a second.
Talking to man?
How you
All
doing?
right. My buddy Charlie.
Hey,
Charlie Finch.
very nice
Pleasure to
you.
meet you.
Charlie, very nice to meet you.
Yes, sir.
Doing all right today?
Doing good. Yeah. I've been trying to do this for a little bit, and I can't never get away. I can't never get away from work. And I'm gonna have a price to pay when I get back, but I wasn't gonna let him down again. He bought this grill at Christmas.
I did. I bought for my wife for Christmas time, and I still hadn't started it. So
I've been working on it. I've been working.
now I need to crank it up.
There you go. Heck yeah.
What's the best trick first?
Chicken thighs, 400 degrees. They're in an hour.
Chicken thighs, 400 degrees. 400 degrees.
That'll splash the grease up on the inside. You want to cook, for your first couple of cooks, you want it to be pretty simple. Chicken thighs, burgers, bacon. Something to splash some grease up on the inside to start that seasoning process.
And then what about just the pellets? Put it in there, kind of
Yep,
grind
yep,
it a little bit.
Yep, and then right in the center, you'll only have to do that once. And put pellets in the hopper.
Yep.
Set it to 400. once it gets to 400, we'll be ready to go. Awesome. Great to meet you. Very nice to meet you. Yes, sir. Y'all be good.
Hang with a good dude right there.
Yeah.
He's gonna say.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm about to put this stuff up there for y'all.
The other two, you said, Belinda.
That one and then the Ron's screen and pick
Ron's.
up.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, great.
Yep.
And I wouldn't use anything else but that Hog Park with Blue. That's
Yeah.
about all right,
Yeah.
Roger. They're fantastic.
Super consistent.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
My kids love when I make the jump off with the fat cat, right? What texture do you get with on the fat cat?
Squishy. Yeah. You wouldn't make cheese runs, I would just take it off.
Yeah, that's what I think of it, yeah.
There's a bit of on the cooking it where it makes cheese runs, where it makes it like well.
We addicted to this.
Right. Yeah, me too.
All right, cool.
So you
Appreciate
can run
it.
it in molasses.
No, sir, no molasses. No, you could use molasses, but I would stay away from the higher temperatures. Just because
Yeah, it goes-
I wouldn't go up to 350. You know, I'd stay below 325. Yeah, you could for sure use molasses.
This is the last one.
Yeah, it creates a pretty color, sure.
Beautiful, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you for coming by today.
Wrap it.
Yes, sir.
I was gonna wrap it.
Okay.
Wrap it in what? 165?
But it's pretty. She says it's dark and mahogany.
And I wrap it.
And normally, yes, it's around 165. But I don't like to tell people 165 is one day to be and let's say it's usually around that 155 to 65 area. Yes, sir. Yes,
She can use Kerry Gold.
Yes, sir. I know, right? It's the craziest thing. There's so much water. Yeah, there's so much water. Oh, yeah. That room on that stuff.
Yeah.
Have to use those buckets for chocolate.
You ain't the only one.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yep, and that's what I mixed in with the pork pork, and then this is what I see. Oh, I like
Did Asian persuasion on my pork tenderloin yesterday. Wow. Then I used yellow mustard with the mustard base on my pork tenderloin.
very nice.
Then the Asian persuasion at the end, I came back with that.
That's good.
Oh,
That's awesome.
Yes,
ma'am.
When you wrap it, you said you put butter in there?
Yes, sir.
How much?
Stick.
Half a stick.
That's just, and again, it's not necessarily going to do anything at that point, you know. It's really for when I'm mixing back that. I get that creaminess, that texture from it. You know, it's able to spread that. I feel like it spreads the pork out. You know, when you make more of that butter.
How do we know what you're cooking on Wednesday? I go to
There's
look
an
all the
email.
time. I got an email every time. It says me right to the website.
It should say it in
Link
there.
with the Facebook.
It should say it. There should be a description right here.
We came for the brisket. Just didn't know what was happening today. Had it off time, so
Heck yeah.
see what you're doing.
Awesome. Every Wednesday. This one is going to be brisket and it'll be. It's going to be brisket and it'll be
I'm not sure of the Justice Master.
it's this is gas down. Yes, sir.
Have you signed ahead of time?
Yes, sir.
Or signed at second distillery?
No, you can sign it with me, or you can get some. Okay.
I'll get one more life, we'll both sign that way then.
Yeah, just let me know.
Okay.
I'm up here Monday through Friday.
Sounds great. I'm gonna try getting to the academy, like I said, I missed it last year.
Oh, and does Greg have your number?
I emailed him, Chef Craig at rectech.com.
Okay, perfect, you're on the list then.
Yeah, because I'm local, you know.
Right. And there's always people dropping out.
It's 6 miles down the road, so. The big thing for me is, I got a bunch of grandkids, right? I cook 10, 16 people at a time. So a lot of times I had a lot of competition off the guy in Texas. Because the one rec tech I had was nice for me, but it was a little small. But I could cook a 140-pound pork leg at a time.
Right, wow.
And then I vacuum seal, freeze it. So by the time the kids go there, you move some of my sawdust, you mix it down. Yeah. No, I like to go where you can separate all that muscle stuff out.
Oh, yeah.
Because see, I didn't know that. So yeah, I said, I don't want to go under, throw it out here, we just go.